So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to kind of do a real brief presentation on just a couple things about privacy and security. And then what we really want to do is get into some questions and talk about how you guys are tackling privacy and security, what some of the issues are. And obviously our objective is to take some notes that what are some of the easy things, what are some of the hard things that you guys are, the people are facing in their organizations that we can then share out with the group. And turn it kind of into like, what we're trying to build is that basic framework of a data governance plan. So I've got to get my screens right here. One of these days, I'm just going to go to 4 screens and make it easier. Even with 3, somehow it all gets screwed up. All right, so let me share, we'll dive in.
This is actually, out of all the other topics, this is the one I know the least about.
Okay.
So I'll have very little to contribute. I'm mostly interested in understanding this part.
Then let's dive in. All right. So just talking in general in data privacy and security. Obviously, when we first put this together, first of all, for those who don't know me, David DiLorenzo, I'm the COO here at A2, but I also spent about, I won't say how many, but more than 20 years in CIO roles at associations. So since data governance is near and dear to my heart and have all that, they gave me the privacy and security. It's so much fun. So that being said, it's always synonymous. People say privacy, security, the same thing. And while there is an overlap, I put a little example on there where you can think about something like encryption, which is certainly tied to data privacy, but there's also security tools that are specifically geared towards encryption. So when you think that regard, data privacy is really about ensuring that only those people who are authorized to access data and use it in the ways that they're authorized to use it can do so. And the security aspect is really what you're thinking, traditional IT security around guarding against malicious threats, but in this case, specifically around how you store your critical data, your business data. So rather than doing a bunch of slides, I love visuals. So I just turned everything I was going to talk about into a graphic. So Jill's giving me a hands up. So thinking about what we're trying to get at, obviously, is kind of usable, protected data. And how do we get there? It's all about protecting our data. So if you think through, the various aspects, and then Michael, Steve, I know you guys will definitely all have some experience in looking through this. You know what? Before we jump in, we should probably do introductions. I did skip that part. Why don't we do introductions of everybody I did mine, and everybody else didn't do theirs. So we'll start. Steven, you want to start out?
Sure. Yeah, I'm the director of technology at American Health Law Association. So I work a lot on different aspects of data governance, but we don't have like a full-fledged plan around data governance. We have pieces of it here and there. I think before I got to AHLA, I think we actually brought in Association Analytics to do some data governance consulting, but that happened with people that were here before I was here, and then there was only one person that was really handling it, and we just haven't had the resources to go deep on data governance. With security and privacy, I've dealt with, in some aspects or another, all of what's up here, really, in one way or another. But our IT team is me. So, and the data governance was just kind of like, handle it. Like, I was like, okay. Yeah. So, I'm interested in this specifically, but like also all aspects of this, because I've been looking for what's an easy way to start getting into it. I mean, sure, obviously data governance goes very deep, but like, what's a quick way to start getting into it? So very interested in what comes out of all of this.
Yeah. Michael?
I'm Michael, or Misha Gedder. I work for CLOC. It's Corporate Legal Operations Consortium. I'm head of IT. We're a small organization. Had absolutely, and I'm there first, head of IT. So we did not have any kind of data governance in place. And I'm just getting to the place myself where I can sort of start gathering knowledge about how to go about it, because I haven't done that in the past. And I try to stay away from it because I'm honestly not interested. It's not what I'm interested in doing.
Sure.
Okay, but I have to face it at some point. So that's that. And when I mentioned to our staff that we are going to embark on data governance initiative, I saw a lot of eye rolls because
I was gonna say eye rolls.
yeah, like, oh my God, oh Jesus. I mean, what else this like IT guy is gonna spring on us? Like what additional work we will have to do because of his wishes, you know? So because yeah, everybody busy doing their things, and IT guys usually come up with like stuff. Right. We rarely generate revenue because like the other departments do. We normally just ask for money and make them and make
Michael,
people.
we enable all revenue.
Yeah. Right, we enable the revenue. Yes, yeah, and make people jump through hoops like this stuff. So yeah, I'm interested to learn. I have very little to contribute, just want to learn.
All right. Monica, our ace report out and keeper of notes and knowledge. All right.
Yes, not on IT side of things, but I have a great respect for what they do, and we have a small IT team, so always trying to sort of make their job easier if I can by respecting whatever policies they do give us, which we have some. They're sort of scattered, I think, and so I'm on the certification team, and data protection is very important with respect to not only personal information, people's names and addresses and phone numbers, but very important to protect their exam performance and scores, that type of information.
Sure.
We treat those files extra special when we're putting passwords on them and things of that nature within SharePoint and other places we save them. But I'm always worried that I will do something wrong. So I'm trying to be a rule follower in that regard, especially when it comes to our hopeful accreditation. One day we have 4 certifications that we offer at Construction Specifications Institute. So that's a little bit about me.
Jill.
Hi, I'm Jill McCall. I'm actually a principal of a group called Managing Momentum. I am serving as interim EDs for multiple organizations and also trying to help groups go to their next level. So I'm just here because I thought it was an interesting topic and appreciate being included.
Great. And Lauren. Hi, Lauren.
Hi, Dilo. Long time no talk.
Long time no talk.
I'm Lauren Clark. I am a part of the A2 team. I am actually a solutions advisor. I joined the webinar to stay up to date with data governance because it's very important, and a lot of prospects that I speak with have a lot of concerns about data governance. So I wanted to educate myself a little more. So, I can help people out the best I can in the association world.
Cool. All right, well, let's dive in a little bit on just making sure everybody's understanding some of the things and concepts out there, and then want to start asking a few questions and getting what kind of you guys are thinking and doing. So, as I said, and you guys alluded to it a little bit, Monica talked about wanting to protect scores and things like that. Steven's working on just general security, and data governance doesn't need to be so abstract and different. It's usually embedded to a lot of the operational things you're already doing. You just don't call it data governance. It's either embedded in things like policies or your general security or third-party management and contracting and stuff like that. There's a lot of data governance aspects that fall into those things. On the security side, as I mentioned, encryption. Obviously, there's a lot of encrypted data. Whether you guys some of you probably know what is encrypted, what's not, but a lot of things that pass across your systems, how things interact with your members, your systems talking to each other. That's all moving through different stages of encrypted data. I hope it's all mostly encrypted. We like to know that it should be. General network security, obviously where things are being stored, how that's protected, the added layer of that extended network now when you think about data governance and security and how you're accessing things with the move to a more of a hybrid work environment where people are working in offices, which are typically going to have more secure and hardened infrastructure and networks versus tapping into those networks from anywhere in the world because they're working at home, they're working anywhere, and it's a hybrid work environment. So just thinking about some of that kind of stuff. Access control, you know, as mentioned, who has access to systems? How are you managing passwords internally? How are outside people slotted to receive things? Do you have policies and procedures that keep up with access control when roles or duties change and people can access any data? Really, it doesn't have to be sensitive data. You know, we don't, any associations, we don't hold a ton of sensitive, super high, you know, quality data that you'd think of in like, you need such layers of protection that it's going to get out in the world but some do. There are certain things that are much more needed to be protected more than others. A lot of stuff we store and think we put a lot of layers on are things most people could find on public websites. But there's varieties of that. Activity monitoring, just what's going on, who's accessing what, who's getting in and out of your system, ensuring that, you know, some of these things are, like I said, are already going to be embedded in some of your IT security that you may or may not know you even have in your organization. Breach response. If something were to happen, what is your immediate response? Do you have a written policy? Do you have standard email that's sent out automatically? Do you have methods of contacting all vendors that are connected to any of your data? Do you have methods of contacting potentially impacted people? I mean, raise your hand on this if you've never gotten a data breach notification from a consumer service that you use. I probably get one all the time. Half the times I just log into Chrome, I get some notification through Chrome that some stored password that I haven't used in 4 years was involved in a data breach. There's a multitude of different breach response, and then just general data loss prevention and making sure it's, you know, you're not losing data, your network is structured, you're not having other ways that things can get erased or written over or things like that around data loss. And that's really a lot of policy driven things that the privacy part, how do you enforce those privacy aspects? Data privacy has really become front and center, obviously, because so much data is out there, because we're so connected in the world. Everybody heard GDPR several years ago. Probably definitely went through the hype cycle for privacy around, everybody was crazy for 18 months maybe, and then kind of just died off faster than anything I've ever seen. But privacy exists. Privacy continues to be a concern. So you do need some level of discovery processes of kind of what you have and why you have it. Consent management. Everybody's got a lot of different consent things built in, whether it's tracking cookies, whether it's email lists, ways to opt in and out. Everybody's changed their templates. So a lot of that's built into services you buy now, before it wasn't. So just managing consent to collect data. A lot of the data you're actually probably collecting about your members and through different tracking and stuff that you have built into tools you're probably not even using. So how you manage that. Data removal, that ties to that. What are the things, a lot of the privacy rules, if you read through them, and now they're getting down to the states, what are the policies at state level for any data removal or things that need to be removed and you don't need to store anymore because whatever the consent was, that time has expired. Does anybody know what a DSAR is? Little quiz. This is a remnant kind of the GDPR and all the different policies. That's a data subject access request. So that's kind of those rules where I can call up, if I want to call Amazon and say I want a copy of all the data you have about me. That's the rule that allows me to do that. I can make a request for, I'm defined as a data subject. So anybody you have data on is defined as a data subject. So typically that's all your members, but you probably have other customers as well. The two ones I would focus on really, like I said, a lot of those other things are going to be built into some of the tools you use and other pieces. I guess if I was going to pick on this whole list of a lot of things where we're trying to keep it light, doing some level of discovery to know what you have and why, then it's really going to be a lot around managing your policies, thinking about your data retention policies, your data collection policies, and then a lot of policies are going to be tied to third parties. How you manage, a data processing addendum to a lot of contracts. I get those all the time in our role because Association Analytics, we are either a direct processor or a sub-processor working with other people's data. What are we doing with it? I have to go through a lot of those with a lot of clients. How are we storing? What are our security policies? What is everything in place? How is this protected? How do you communicate out anything? So all these things are covered in a lot of contract language with third parties that, you know, if your organizations don't have them, you know, I used to write those a lot when I did consulting, and all the vendors would love me. And now, so it's probably my karma that's gotten back to me now that I have to fill them out and read them all the time, because I used to be the one doling them out from the associations. So that, you know, those are some areas, and that's really framing around what data is important and why, once kind of get that usable and protected data. So I guess with that context, I'm going to stop sharing and we're going to talk, and we're going to have some questions. All right. Let's see. Okay, where'd my questions go? All right, so if you guys think about it, what are you, we'll start with kind of an easy one, and maybe what are systems that you guys are using that traditionally you would consider you're storing PII, personally identifiable information, you know, whether it's names, addresses, email addresses, you know, what are some traditional systems? When I said we're tying that to discovery, if you were starting our discovery process and you were doing a general systems analysis of what you're storing and what's there, what might be some systems where you think you've got a lot of PII stored?
Well, AMS is for sure, right?
Mm-hmm.
And also events registration, at least for us. Those two big ones.
We also have an LMS that stores a lot of information.
Okay.
Yeah, e-commerce system does. Even though we don't store credit card information in the billing and shipping address and names and emails.
Anything else?
But all of those are hosted by third parties. I mean, we don't host any of that stuff, right? So
you're not hosting, but yeah, you still have you are the initiator. So they're a processor of your data. They're storing it. So it's still, that's where the PII lives. You are on the hook, man.
Yeah. So the question is, what can we do about it, right? I mean, how much influence do we have over what's happening?
Well, I mean, this is where some of your contractual protections help you. If you think through any of your agreements that you're signing with those vendors, there's probably, I'm sure there's some definitely clauses in their agreements that are trying to protect themselves. But you know, you can have a one or two page data protection addendum to any contract, you know, DPAs, or I'll make sure we put something like that in the sample docs, I think, that'll generate out of this. But you know, you make it fit yourself, but it's make every vendor sign one. What is their breach notification? Because ultimately, you know, you signed a contract with a third party and they had a breach, but you didn't have any way that they notified you. How are you supposed to notify your members? And if they don't notify them directly, you know, that's a little bit on you as the main owner of that original data. Because are they getting the data all raw, or are they getting some of it through integrations with your AMS?
Well, in some cases, it's both, right? Because some of the data they get from AMS, and some data they get on their own by people going directly to their systems.
Any other systems? Marketing systems?
Yep. Testing vendor platform, digital badging platform.
Yeah.
Analytics platform.
Analytics platform. Yep, that's correct. We appreciate holding your data. All right, so I think as you think about it through from a discovery standpoint, there's probably no end in systems. You can think of job board systems hold a lot of PII. You know, I'm trying to think of other ones. I mean, it's almost anything you touch, your certification systems, as you said. Really anything when you think of it originated probably through your site that you identified who a member was in a service they needed. Something was getting passed, or they're recreating that personal information in another system. All right, how are any of do you have your, does anybody have any security procedures fairly well documented, and do you know how to access them?
I mean, I have a, in case of breach, or we have a security document of the process of steps. If there's, it's not just for breach, but it's any type of like intrusion, or if there's malicious activity, like we have a document that goes through and the different levels, and if it's this level, what that looks like. Pulling certain people in to discuss like what the response might be. We don't have like a canned response to anything specific. So
no one's ever had a data breach in this group?
we had, I think my organization had one a number of years ago.
Okay.
And that was a tailored response. There was a tailored response to that, but they
Okay.
also had to involve like some